Welcome back. Welcome back, talking with the American Secretary of Defense, Robert Gates. As you look at the other problems and challenges in the world, I mean, where does North Korea feature in your lexicon?
Well, I think North Korea is a real challenge, but I would say it is I would say it's a challenge in two respects. In terms of their military capabilities, they are essentially a regional challenge, and their unpredictability is a concern, frankly, for both China and South Korea, as well as ourselves and others in the region. And they have a bad habit, particularly over the last year or two, of actually surprising the Chinese. Their nuclear tests, their missile launches, the sinking of this South Korean ship. But it is this unpredictability and their willingness to resort to provocative behavior, the uncertainties introduced by a succession, and whether some of this provocation is an attempt by a 26-year-old son of Kim Jong-il's to try to sort of prove his chops to the North Korean military, that he's tough enough to be the successor. That all adds. The other concern, though, about North Korea that is not regional is their contribution to proliferation, and not just of nuclear materials, but also missile technology, and basically they're willing to sell anything they have. And so they are a concern in that respect as well.
And so that's absolutely key. And what about the situation today with Israel? The argument for getting rid of the blockade on Gaza gets more and more eloquent around the world. Can you see an improvement in the situation there between the two sides?
Well, I mean, clearly it is the goal of the President and certainly the Secretary of State and the rest of us to try and push the Middle East peace process forward. What has been interesting through all of this has been the relative calm on the West Bank. And so you do see a difference between the West Bank and Gaza, the difference between the leadership of the Palestinians in the West Bank and the more radical, or the radical, leadership of Hamas in Gaza. I think that division of the Palestinians complicates the peace process, but it doesn't make it impossible. And the truth is, if we could show progress on the West Bank and in that part of the process, it may create pressures to help resolve the Gaza problem.
Or vice versa. Obviously, some people say you've got to start by getting rid of the blockade. Here's the British and French foreign ministers saying, William Hague, Bernard Kouchner and so on, both called for an international investigation into the raid. That was the raid we were talking about. Why won't the US support an international investigation, and the blockade must go?
Well, all I'm saying is that part of the problem that the Israelis have had is that that Hamas has used humanitarian donations in the past, principally to strengthen their military capabilities in Gaza. Construction materials haven't gone for housing, they've gone for bunkers. And of course, thousands of rockets have been launched out of Gaza into Israel. And Hamas is acquiring rockets of ever-increasing range. So the Israelis have a real security problem with Gaza. And my guess is that's the reason for the blockade in the first place. Now, I think with respect to an investigation, I haven't been home for a while, so I'm not exactly sure what the U.S. Position is, but it seems to me that whatever investigation takes place, however it's structured, has to have credibility in the international arena. And in a way, perhaps the way the South Koreans handled the investigation of the Cheonun sinking is an example where they ran the investigation, but they had representatives of other countries Sweden and the U.S. and others participate in it in a way that gave it credibility to broad international community. I don't know whether that's the right answer here or not.
What are your ambitions for the next few years? You said you'll go on till Christmas at least, right? And then you'll hopefully say you'll stay on for another year.
Well, we'll see. At some point, my wife has a vote in this. This was originally for 2 years, and you know, I've retired 2 or 3 times and failed every time. So
well, you
we'll
said
see.
When you took the job on, yes, you said, you know, it's an awful job, and I'm only doing it because I love my country and so on. Is it an awful job?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I would say so in this context. How could one say one enjoys a job when every day you sign papers sending young men and women in harm's way? You sign condolence letters to their parents or their husbands or wives or their children, or you go to the hospitals and visit the wounded, or you go to Arlington to the funerals. How anybody could say a job where that's an important component of the job is enjoyable is unthinkable to me.
And you said, I believe that the outcome of these conflicts must shape our world for decades to come. It's that serious, it's that important. There's that much at stake right now, Mr. Secretary.
I think that let's take the case of Iraq.
Yeah.
Historians will debate whether going into Iraq in the first place was the right or wrong decision. But when I came to this job at the end of 2006, the consequences of an American defeat in Iraq, I think, along the lines you just quoted, would have had impact for decades to come. A failure in Afghanistan for NATO, I think, will have consequences for a long time to come. Not just for the United States, but for the alliance itself, having made this commitment. And so I think these conflicts, however one might agree or disagree with how they started, the outcome matters a great deal.
Well, it's a real joy to talk like
Thank you.
this. Here's the next time, but thank you so much for sharing these thoughts with us.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.